Welcome in, everyone, to the Thursday show. It's AKA the Bears Country Podcast. I'm joined right now, currently at least, by Foster. Foster, can you believe this guy in chat, Cliff Victoria? He says that he was watching someone else's show on a Thursday?
Freaking Cliff, man.
The audacity of that
Going
guy,
on
man.
For a couple of years, freaking Cliff. Cliff! No.
Yeah. Welcome in, everyone, though. Hope everyone's doing well. Foster,
Yeah.
we've got a fun show. As you know, we've got a special guest sitting backstage. We'll get to him in just a moment. And Dan is going to be on the screen at some point. I just can't speak as to when. Let's say hello to chat, as we always do. I just want to point out as well, thank you guys, all of you who are currently members to the channel. We've got 3 currently. It's Plank, Googly Bear, and Chad Speaker. Thank you guys very, very much. But let's say hello to chat because, again, as Dan would say, there is no show without you guys. You guys are what makes the show as great as it is. So, again, Cliff, how's it going, buddy?
Chad Speaker. Mr. Mayor, 69.
I see a Rick Gonzalez.
Rick Gonzalez. Back at him.
Oh, there's that Bearski this Bearski film guy. I have the opinion that he might be an AI chatbot. I'm just not sure, but we'll have to monitor that situation.
Bearski's Polly. Heidi. Hi, Heidi. Heidi Zimmerman in the chat.
Heidi Zimmerman, hello. I see a Patty L as well. Hello, hello.
Hey, Laura.
AC Adam.
Back at him. There's the Plankster.
Mr. Plank, how's it going to you, sir? Antmas, hello, Mr. Antmas.
I know Cliffy's here. We all know Cliffy's here.
I love when Cliff leans into the Don Burr allegations because, as we all know, Cliff Victoria, Don Burr, same person. So, all right.
That cannot be, man. I'm just telling you, it cannot be. I've hung with Cliff.
Well, so, Foster, are you telling me that you've seen Cliff Victoria in person, and then you guys were watching a show together and saw Don Burr? Is that what you're trying to say? Or
no, but I've been talking to Don Burr for almost 3 years, man. And Cliff, I personally know they're not the same thing. They are not the same.
I don't know, Foster. I think the jury's.
You can keep this going, Karl, but I'm just telling you.
The jury's out on that one. We'll have to figure that out. Any other opening remarks from yourself, Mr. Foster? Hope you're doing well.
No, man. We'll bring on one of my favorite people here.
Yeah. Let's get to it. The one and only Glynn Morgan. How's it going, sir?
Hey, it's going, guys. Glad to be here. Glad for you guys to be nice enough to have me back. Appreciate that. It's been a couple of years now since first met our acquaintances, and I'm glad that we're still retaining those connections.
First time, Karl, I had this guy choking on his little glass of whiskey there. Remember, you had to go off. That was a pretty show.
Hopefully, you got some more whiskey for everyone tonight, Glenn. That'd be kind of fitting the mold of what the show has been. I think last week Dan got a little bit wine drunk. I'm not too sure.
Yeah, he did.
Maybe we'll have to have you lean into that, Glenn.
Just got a little bit of the white Hennessy here, so
there you go.
Fantastic. There you go.
Adult beverages fly on Thursday nights. That's normal.
Getting ready for that Friday tomorrow. Absolutely. Alrighty, Glenn. So I've got a couple questions if you want to start with those, or if you have any opening comments about these Bears, this wide net that they're casting regarding the coaching search. What's the overall vibe that you're getting from the Bears right now?
The overall vibe I'm picking up on the Bears is I feel like it's business as usual. I do. I understand all the hubbub. We're so pumped. We're so excited. It's a situation where we know the change is coming, and when change needs to be had, we're excited for what the potential of that may look like. And that's where the excitement is. I believe that the NFL does a great job of promoting those kind of things, and then the Bears being part of the NFL infrastructure do their part. It's Chicago. It's a major media market, so on and so forth. But to me, from the very moment that Poles was retained, it told me that it's business as usual.
So you're not a fan of the Bears holding on to Mr. Poles.
No.
Is there a certain reason as to why? Are you of the thought of that the Bears should have, or I guess a football team and ownership, whatever you want to say, even a business, should have that lineage? The GM hires the head coach and so on and so forth? Or are you okay with that being segmented? Or is there something else that Poles has done that you've kind of really not taken a liking to?
No, yes, no, yes, no, and yes. It's so layered, and nothing in life, for the most part is 100% guaranteed all the time, and you're going to have to be able to be adaptable and be fluid with change. And so I understand that everything may not be as sequential as you may like it, where the president hires a GM hires a head coach, and then collectively they get their quarterback. So that would be, great, but that's not necessarily always likely to happen, and clearly isn't something that we've had here in Chicago. So with that being said, no, it doesn't have to be that way. However, because over the last several years, it's been so segmented and it's worked so ill. It's not worked at all. It's been so bad in so many different ways that it begets situations that turn into something that could be solved in 2 or 3 years. Now it becomes extended over 5 to 6 to 7 years. And then, you think there's change, but you're still caught up in the same matrix of confusion and just not having the leadership that you want to have, or purposeful direction. And I see that right now if you retain polls. I mean, keep in mind, you're talking about an organization, the Chicago Bears, that's been around since the inception of the league. So 100 plus years. And in the Bears history, under Polster's regime, we've had 2 of the worst years in Bears history. You're talking about an organization and a gentleman at the GM position that had, in successive years, back-to-back years, the number 1 pick in the draft. And you've gotten worse. You've had 2 head coaches under Poles. You've had 3 offensive coordinators, essentially, 3 defensive coordinators, essentially. Decision-making here seems to be a big question mark when it comes to leadership and those who you're putting in place to be leaders. On top of all of that, you can get into the draft situation and the hubris that went into last year's draft. And what I have found to be one of the more egregious things that Poles did this past year was, you're getting Caleb, and I understand you want Caleb to be the guy and you want him to play sooner than later. I get all that. Don't necessarily agree, but I get it. Not my organization. I understand that, but just a fan. That being said, why in God's name would you not have a veteran quarterback on staff? Someone who has played and or plays the game, so that Caleb has someone he can talk to in real time, who understands what it's like being out there on the field, who can help translate, if there's any confusion, what it means from what happens on the chalkboard or the whiteboard or your laptop to what happens actually on the field. And then being able to understand when and why and how to do things, and to be a professional. I'm not saying that Caleb is not professional, but in terms of being what it takes to be an NFL quarterback, Caleb doesn't have the experience. And so your leadership, your veteran is a guy who only played 4 NFL games last year in Bagent. And no slight to Bagent. I'm just saying you should have a veteran on there. I cannot recall too many situations where the number 1 draft pick being a quarterback, or even the first round pick being a quarterback, someone that inevitably is going to start, doesn't have a veteran on that staff to help them be able to understand and to assimilate into the pros. That was one of the most hubristic things I've ever seen somebody do, and it completely egregious in my opinion. And you want to give this guy another opportunity to be in charge of his development and the overall team's development moving into the future. And I'm just getting started with the issues I have with him. So yeah, short answer, or a long answer to a short question. No, I don't want Poles, and I don't dislike him as a person. It doesn't do with him personally. There are things that I just don't agree with, and you're going to have him be in charge of getting another head coach when it's worked so poorly before. And I don't want to hear that he didn't pick Eberflus. He signed off on it, and I have questions as to what GM takes a job when they're not able to pick their coach. It'd be different. The coach is already in place. It'd be different if he's already hired. I understand that. But he wasn't hired. There was no coach. They were looking for a GM and a coach at the same time. And this GM, Poles, takes the job when he's told that basically, well, you can have the job, but you're going to pick between these 3. I think someone more sure of themselves, or someone who's a GM of I don't know, more cojones. I shouldn't say that. I don't mean to disparage him. I think someone with a little bit stronger wherewithal would not have taken that position, would have settled for saying, okay, I got to pick between those 3. Like you're setting yourself up to be in a situation. Like you can sign off on it, but is that who you really wanted? And if that's the case, then are you really a leader, or are you being led? And so that's where I have questions that stem back to then, that has clearly played out not in the Bears or the organization or as fans in our favor at all. So does that kind of answer your question a little bit?
Absolutely does. I think a lot of the things that you're saying, chat's definitely agreeing with it. I agree with a lot of it. A couple things I want Foster to chime in too, of course. So you said that Poles, I think a bigger indictment on him is him signing off on Eberflus going into this season, right? I agree with you. You'd hope that he'd
No,
have
no, I'm sorry. I meant when he first got the job.
no. Okay, so if that's how you feel, in my opinion, then it was actually more of an indictment on him to sign off on Poles going into this year because
Sure.
Ryan
Sure, I
Poles
get
was a first-time general manager. He's young. He was eager to get the job, in my opinion. So if he was told by a charter franchise that you have to start off with this, I think he was okay with it. You also mentioned the Bears having back-to-back first overall picks. While that is true on technicality, the Chicago Bears did not earn the pick for Caleb Williams. They lucked into it via trade with Carolina. They did have a top 10 pick, but they didn't earn it by their poor play directly. And then your point regarding needing a veteran quarterback for Caleb Williams, absolutely agree with you. A lot of the shows that I watched, shows that I participated in, not even like a pencil, but like a really nice pencil, or using that pen to write in Brett Rippon's name on this final 53-man roster. What the heck happened with that? Again, Foster, I want you to chime in, make sure you get any points you have, anything like that.
I can't, the quarterback thing is, and Glynn, you brought it up. I don't ever recall any team that I've ever seen in the last 50 years bring a quarterback in and not have a veteran. Never saw it before in my life till this year. Everything that Glynn said is correct. I mean, this last 3 years, and I'm a Poles backer, and I'm still backing Poles because I'm just hoping by some miracle that he's going to. Because here's the other thing I hate, Glynn, is I hate, we had Pace here. We had him here, and actually it's what? So he's been like the best GM. If you go and you like of this century, if you go and look at
No, Angio was better.
Yeah, I think that whoever was responsible for the second-round picks with Hester.
State that properly. Hasn't he been the best GM since George McCaskey took over? Or I don't know. When did George take this over?
2011, Foster. I think it's fair to say that Ryan
so from
Pace.
11 till now, who's been the best guy picking players?
Ryan Pace has assembled the most competitive roster.
There you go.
I think that the team that lost in the wild card round against the Eagles had a legitimate shot to go to the Super Bowl. I don't know if they'd win it, but they had the top end talent. But Glenn, here's something that I like about Ryan Poles. He had to deal with Pace's aggressive trade-ups. The Chicago Bears didn't have a first-round pick when they took over. Poles was tasked with trading away stars like Khalil Mack, Robert Quinn, your sack leader, who he was in the news for a really bad reason, by the way. But he in that first year when the Bears earned the number 1 overall pick because of their poor play, which they traded that pick away, I think that was the best possible thing that he could have done, and I actually give him a plus for being that bad because it was such a bad situation, and he maneuvered it pretty well. He took Justin Fields, who wasn't his asset that was drafted. He actually gave him a fair shot, in my opinion. I know that that's something we could debate all the way until the cows come home, if that's the correct term. But at the end of the day, I think that he deserves his shot to hire his guy. I'm really hoping that it's going to be Poles who hires our new head coach and not the McCaskey, I like to call them the geriatric Avengers, as far as maybe a Bill Polian. I pray to God he's not involved in this. But I don't know. I think you can give the guy a shot. I think that his track record in the draft is good enough to give him all this capital. I was of the school of thought that, hey, maybe let's not leave it to chance and let's go trade for a proven head coach. I would have loved Sean McVay, especially after seeing what he did to your Brian Flores. But I'm going to digress there. Foster, any other comments?
No, well, here, I wanted to go with this. You were talking about the last 3 years, the 3 of the worst years, or 2 years, 3 years, whatever. We've done this before. This is a repeat of 69, 70, 71. I mean, we've done this. We've done this over and over consistently. We talk about how we're sick of it because it is nothing but the same cycle that's been going on for decades and decades. So something's got to give, man. Something's got to give. I don't even know what to say anymore or who to bring in anymore because every whatever they do, I try to back it, and then if I look at it realistically, most of the time I'm going, man, that's probably a mistake. and I'm talking the last. We'll just go with the last 15 seasons since Georgie Boy took over, and I don't know, man. I'm upset. I'm disappointed with a lot of it. Things didn't go the way I expected, and I might have said too many good things about this team going into the season. I might have hyped them up too far because I just the result that we saw this year, and I know they had 4 or 5 games, probably 5 or 6 games that they should have won, but shoulda, coulda, woulda means nothing.
Thank you. I'm so sick. The city is mired.
Fans, and even as anybody watching, man, when the hell does this get straightened out? Does it ever? Does it ever in my lifetime, man? I know. I'm gonna shut
up. Well, I know, Karl, you mentioned as far as distinction in terms of earning number ones. I'm not just whether they earned it or however they got it. That's not my issue. My issue is what do you do with it when you have it? And I believe, and granted, I'm not upset with the Caleb pick at all. And you kind of get it. It's kind of a layup in that regard. And even getting a Dunze, a lot of people might have wanted an offensive lineman. Getting a Dunze, I'm not upset with taking him as far as the talent goes. My issue is that there are other things besides the first round pick that you need to do to secure, the development of not just the quarterback but also the team.
Are you talking about Zach Pickens?
I'm talking about a lot of different things, and I'm talking about.
I know.
You could throw in Zach, sure, and I'm not mad at Zach. I mean, if he was a first round pick, yeah, I'd be a lot more upset.
He was the first pick in the 3rd round. He's a pseudo 2nd round pick, and he's just been terrible.
Well, then you kind of go into my polls thing.
Absolutely.
But my issue is there are so many other ancillary things that went into this season that should have been in place to build on what was a 7-10 season, and in the spirit of shoulda, coulda, wouldas, very easily could have been a 10-7 season. And it seemed as though so much of a focal point was placed on if we just change the quarterback and the offensive coordinator, we'll be good. But let me supply our quarterback with some weapons. And it's like, where in your mind, and by yours I mean Pole's mind, did you decide that your offensive line was set? Not just set, but apparently you thought good enough. Based on what exactly? And when I ask myself that question, I say, well, if you go back to Poles' first season, Justin's second season in the league, they led the league in rushing. And I believe Khalil Herbert led the league in yards per carry, average around 5.6. Bears, granted, Justin had about 1,000 of those yards, but the Bears were close, either over 3,000 or really close to 3,000 yards total rushing yards. And the following year, which was the 2023 season, I believe they were second in the league in rushing. And Justin didn't run for as many yards, but still obviously, a factor in that rushing. Khalil didn't have as good a year, but still over 4 point. I think he's like 4.1, 4.2, something like that. So you're telling me the guy you got rid of was good enough to provide DJ Moore with the best season in his career ever. So much so that you paid DJ. And that the year before you paid Cole Kmet because he and Justin seemed to be clicking the year before. And then last year, or the 2023 season, DJ and Cole Kmet both had their best years. And you were second in the league in rushing. So you're thinking you're pretty good, but you get rid of that person. So apparently he wasn't as bad as you thought he was. If he's able to convince you enough that your offensive line was good. An offensive line where your left tackle still has an issue with bull rushes. He's athletic, but he can't stop a bull rush. Your left guard is perennially injured. Someone you didn't draft, by the way. You have no question, you have no answers for the questions at center. And your right guard has proven to be incognito. And your right tackle, who is someone that's also you're responsible for developing. It's not just a quarterback. Everyone focuses on the quarterback, but other players have to develop. Your right tackle's development was stunted by all the the chaos around him, so to speak, or the inconsistencies around him. So what is a really good talent has been stunted to some degree. But you went into this season thinking that you were set, and then you draft an injured guy out of Yale. Although hometown guy, I look at his physical attributes, I get it. Long arms, athletic, he fits all that. But what's his production like in college? What is his production compared to the other players that you could have drafted? And then I don't care about the talent. You don't draft a punter as a luxury pick. You draft a punter when you think you're ready. So you're telling us you think you're ready because you picked punter with the 4th round pick. You still need an edge rusher on the opposite side of Montrez. So what you did is you go into next year's draft and pull from next year's draft pick so you can get an edge rusher that you get in Booker out of Kansas. And then you realize he's not quite good enough that you need. So then you go into next year's draft again to make a trade with your draft pick with Seattle to get somebody on the same end as well.
And Glenn, I'm actually of the thought that the Bears need a running back. I don't think that DeAndre Swift as an alpha number 1 running back is good enough. He needs a complementary piece. And do you know what running back was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after Torrey Taylor was drafted?
Bucky Irving.
Yes, sir. Couple things I want to interject on before I hand it off to Shorty. I think Shorty's in the background. I don't know what he just did. Regarding that offensive line, I was told by the media that there was 2 years of progress under that offensive line coach was scrapped because of Waldron. So I think that Waldron really kind of swung his hammer and ruined that progress as far as that goes. I think if you're suggesting that Khalil Herbert was diminished in a way that he shouldn't have and he should have played a bigger role for this team, I fully agree with you, man. I don't know what they did with that and what they got in return, we'll see. But at the end of the day, it's a running back. I'm hoping they're able to replace him. And their offensive line, we all know that Ryan Poles had those comments, right? Ryan Poles said this is the deepest offensive line that the Chicago Bears have had under Poles' tenure. It may have been, but oh my God, did they get really tested, man. I think that there were scenarios where the Bears were starting with their 3rd option at 3 positions in their offensive line for multiple times this game. If we've got Jake Curhan taking meaningful starting reps, you've got a big problem. I think something that really sucks, though, me and Foster debated this a little bit before the season. We thought that the interior offensive line would be a problem. I thought that Caleb Williams would be able to navigate that pocket better because of his ability to manipulate the pocket, get outside of the pocket, to splash plays outside the pocket, whatever. But I think that the Bears maybe really put a lot of stock into Tevin Jenkins, and they really wanted him to succeed and earn the contract because he's in a contract year, right? For me, Tevin Jenkins has been a huge disappointment. Perfect capstone. I think he had a calf injury against the Packers. Chose not to play. You're trying to get a contract, big man. Come on. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I know a lot of, I don't want to call them pundits, but people I listen to will say that a Tevin Jenkins needs to be re-signed for continuity's sake. I think that there's no one currently on the interior for the Bears that's currently under contract. You have 6, your starters and your depth pieces. None of them are re-signed, so you got to re-sign someone. A lot of people say you need to bring Coleman Shelton back. I'm going to digress on all that and bring on the man of the hour, Mr. Shorty.
I'm sorry I'm late, guys.
You should be.
Well, I apologize to you, Glenn, because you sent me the text like, man, I gotta come on with you this week. I got a bunch of shit to get off my chest. I'm like, oh yeah, let's do this. And then today I got so I'm back up in Illinois because my mother has stage 0 basically breast cancer. She had surgery this week, so I came up to help her with that. So I have off the whole week of work, and today my work invited me to a yearly dinner that we have. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh yeah, I can definitely make that. It's an hour away. And I'm like, oh shit, I have the show tonight with Glenn. So thank you guys for starting it without me. Thank you for Glenn for being so gracious and allowing us to push us another hour. I appreciate you.
Oh, all good. Appreciate you guys. No worries.
Apologize to everyone.
Gotta take care of family. Gotta take care of family, man. Gotta take care of family.
Absolutely. I was listening to you in the car when the show started on the way back, and there was something I just wanted to piggyback off of what you said, Karl. I totally forgot what it was about, though. But to your point, Glenn, I see exactly what you're saying, and it makes sense. But at this point, he's not going anywhere. And He should have been fired by now, right there. If he's been a part of the coaching search so far, he is going to be the one that's going to hire him. And I think that to me is it's going to what you're saying. It goes back to what I was saying the last time. See, I've been trying to figure you out before this show because 2 shows ago you like shot me to the ground. I'm like, the next show I'm like, okay, I got you. I know exactly you're going to be right on board with me. You were like, nope. You shot me down again. I was like, what the fuck? This is about the McCaskies. This is about the McCaskies because to your point about polls, if they're interviewing head coaches before they even hire the general manager, and then they bring in the general manager, and one of the 4 candidates that they had narrowed down to immediately gets hired, and he's the dorkiest guy out of the lineup, you know it was a McCaskey hire. So basically what you're saying is from the beginning, polls adhering to what the McCaskies want. I'll let you go after this, Foster. Adhering to, because I know you want to chime in on this. If he's adhering to what the McCaskies want, then he was the wrong hire to begin with. But that goes right back to like, what does it matter? When will that ever change? We're back into it again. If the McCaskies have anything to do with a hire, it's garbage. Give up on it. If there is this giant firm of like 15 different people that are all going to be on this coaching search and making up the decisions for this, then what does it matter, Glenn? Because if the general manager, if it's not all said and done by him, then what kind of fucking crazy debacle, fucked up management is this? And when will it ever end? And how can we ever have confidence in what's about to transpire here in the next few weeks?
Can I feed into? I'm sorry, Foster's wanted to say some stuff.
No.
Go ahead.
Well, so what we've got right now is exactly what we had. We've got Warren in place of one guy, and we've got a McCaskey at the top, and then there's somebody other under Warren who is the same as he's here for the stadium, just like the bean counter was here for 25 or 30 years. So it's the same damn thing that we talked about. Because I'm going to throw my laptop, so I'm just going to shut up. Go ahead, Glenn.
We all think it's going to change when we get rid of Sweaty Teddy and we bring in a guy that is by all accounts more of a football guy than he was, but not really when you break it down. And now this guy is just none of it makes sense. We own Arlington Heights. We could already be built. If he's talking about the price of everything going up by day, that we could have already broken ground and be a quarter done with the stadium by now, and the hotels and the restaurants and all that shit. And they're still trying to get a fucking stadium on the lake. It's just
Chicago
mad.
Politics is not making it any easier.
It's mad.
Well, I'll feed into your dismay more, your overt outrage. Because
I'm standing up right now. I'm like sitting on a bed in my mom's spare bedroom.
I pretty much feel the same way, and I've actually thought a lot about it over the last couple of months. My over on podcast that I'm a part of, the Easy Smoking the GM podcast, my partner Ez, the easy part of it, he asked a question of us as to, are the McCaskies good owners? What kind of owners are the McCaskies? And initially I thought about it, I'm like, well, you know what? They're not really bad owners. And I said this because they do pay the players.
They do listen to the fans.
They listen to the fans. They do care. They stay out of the way. They don't Jerry Jones it like he does in Dallas. So
Except when it comes to coaching hires.
Well, they don't. They still don't Jerry Jones it. You know what I mean? They're not grabbing the spotlight. They're not me spotlight. They care about it because it's the family business, and the charities are on point. So there are a lot of things that they do well as owners. However, their Achilles heel, if you will, is the fact that they focus so much on their image as a family-friendly, family-oriented organization that they tend, in my opinion, to skew towards people in position who reflect that. And as such, they are somewhat conservative. but there's this cuddly feeling. There's this don't rock the boat type kind of feeling. Just think about the coaches that have been hired since Papa Bear Hallis passed away. And for the most part, we've gotten lucky. Even with Dicko, we got lucky because Dicko wrote a letter to Papa Bear saying, "Hey, I want to be a coach." It wasn't like Dicko was really on their radar as a special teams coach with the Dallas Cowboys. And him
Right.
being a Bear, I liken it to Papa Bear Hallis saying, like Bo Schembechler did in Michigan, "I want a Michigan man." I think Papa Bear Hallis felt like, "I want a true Bear to represent this team going forward." And then obviously he didn't live long enough to see the Bears win a Super Bowl. But Dicko, as inspired as Hallis may have been by the letter, um, again, that wasn't a situation where he was necessarily being sought after. But you think about all the players outside of Dave Wannstedt, I really can't recall there being a frontline hire, frontline prospect, coaching prospect that the Bears targeted or above board about knowing that they wanted to acquire and being able to acquire said person. And at the time, Wannstedt checked all the boxes. He was young, vibrant, defensive coordinator. That fit the Bears mold. He had 4-3 scheme. He had just come off of winning Super Bowl. He was a winner. Had won in college. Player relatable. All these things. Fit. And initially Wannstedt had a nice little surge up in terms of victories and success. However, Plan B free agency and Ted Phillips and how the Bears were kind of stuck in old ways of doing things. And then the misfortune of making a move to get Rick Meyer and sacrificing some number one picks for that was something that Wannstedt and the Bears organization wasn't able to overcome. And then they went from sugar to shit real quick. After that, all the other coaches, even the ones that had some success, a modicum of success, you're talking about Jerron for a year and a half, you're talking about the Lovey years, those guys, Jerron and Lovey were third, fourth options. Those weren't initial options. Those weren't the guys that Bears were targeting starting. Those weren't the hires everybody else wanted. Those weren't the premium picks, so to speak. And so the Bears were fortunate in what happened. And I said it to you a long time ago, every 20 to 25 years, the Bears are good. And so we're in that window. That was my only thing to put my hat on. And we're still in that window to some degree. You look at the 40s were dominant, early mid 60s, obviously the 80s, late 80s with the Bears, early 2000s, and now we're in that window again where it could happen in the next 2 to 3 years, hopefully. And you have a quarterback in place, so there's still hope. But my point is that you look at since the McCaskies took over, it's been hires that are uninspired. You look at Nagy probably came closest to maybe like a Wannstedt type kind of search to some degree, but I don't know if he was necessarily someone that everybody wanted. But again, family-oriented guy, nice dude, stubborn. His obstinacy got in his way of him having continued success. But you look at Trestman, professorial, guy. He's not going to rock the boat. Lovey wasn't a rock the boat guy. Jerron, faith-oriented guy, not a rock the boat guy. None of these guys are rock the boat. So I'm not saying you have to have the energy and the demeanor of a Ditka or a Campbell in Detroit, or someone who's fire and brimstone, or a get after type kind of dude. You can be someone that holds people accountable, just like Andy Reid does, or Mike Holmgren did, or Tony Dungy did. You don't have to be fire and brimstone, or like Tomlinson does now. Someone that holds the organization accountable, and that person has been hired because the people hiring those people are similar in effect to what the McCaskies want. And so when you have someone like Impulse, who's very conservative, kind of soft-spoken. I don't mean, when I say soft-spoken, I don't mean that as a knock, but I mean just very, deliberate and methodical in what he says. I consider myself soft-spoken, so I'm not knocking that. But what I'm saying is there's a certain conservative aspect to it that it seems as though it's still reflective of this organization where you're not targeting people in leadership positions that can make difference. And the ones that you're choosing, aside from not being leaders, some of them have proven to be even, problematic. And you cannot tell me that Waldron wasn't a Poles hire. I don't believe they trusted Eberflus to hire another offensive coordinator after the misfire with Getsy. So that Poles was on that. And the fact that you hired another offensive coordinator who couldn't even last half the season, on top of the fact that the other guy that you just let go couldn't last. He was let go sooner than Waldron was let go with the Raiders. So I'm saying your ability to cite coaching talent and leadership talent is a big issue. It's shown itself time and time again. And this is the first time the Bears have fired a coach during the season. So, I mean, this is the guy that we want in charge of making leadership hires again. I'm not sold on that. And then I believe there was a certain amount of hubris that went into this last season's draft picks. A lot that went into that. And then the admission later on that Poles knew that during training camp there were some issues. There were some issues. You didn't address them then. You let them play out over the year. Why? And then the question that Karl asked earlier, like, why would you not let Eberflus go last year? Where you have an opportunity here to get a new head coach in here, and you can maybe really attract a talented head coach that would be interested in taking someone like Caleb and developing him. So now what this whole season has proven to me as a fan, as a person who's, inclined to lean towards the Bears and be more forgiving.
Just bought this today.
I'm looking at it and I'm going, this is the most dysfunctional I've seen it in my 50 years. And I've seen some bad Bears football, but organizationally from, the GM, actually, I'm looking at Kevin Warren's side eye too, all the way down to all the people making decisions, sans the players at this point. It's like, what are we doing here? And you guys are dysfunctional, and it's played out in front of everyone on national TV. And it was set up because of Hard Knocks. So it's set up, and then you come in and you're the exact 180 of what Hard Knocks was purporting you to be. But you see it on these nationally televised games, just how bad they are. So much so that even the broadcasters are at a loss for words to try and find something less negative to say about the Bears, because there's nothing positive they can really find. And then with Caleb, it's like, I get why you get him, why you drafted him, but I don't think that you had to draft him. I've been on record saying that I thought they should have traded down. This past draft had so many things, and it's not a knock on Caleb. I'm not disparaging him at all. To me, it was more about the Bears being in a situation that they haven't been in really before, where you can take the bull by the horns and restructure this organization from the foundation up and get yourself in place by having a plethora of talented players for this season and next season, so you can build from that, and you can still have a quarterback. You don't have to have the first pick in the draft to be successful.
You could have done it the Cowboys way, because Justin Fields was not garbage. He was not. Justin Fields was better than Mitch Trubisky. I'm not saying Mitch Trubisky was garbage either. I'm saying, like, Mitch Trubisky could have been worked with the proper coaching and everything to make him work. He wasn't a complete waste of the position in Justin Fields. I can see the argument for the trade down and doing the Dallas route, where you could have just picked up. That was the draft too, like shitloads of offensive and defensive linemen out of that draft to build your trenches with. So Caleb Williams is like a dream come true for me. He's like the quarterback I've always, my entire life, envisioned that I always wanted from when I was 15 to now. And so I love the fact that they did draft him, but they could have built this team differently and made this work with Justin Fields and just made it so dominant around him in his trenches that he would have succeeded, just because you could work with that.
I'm not even saying you had to keep Justin.
Formation.
I'm not even saying you can keep. I'm saying you can still let Justin go. I can still live. I'm saying that this particular draft, this past draft, the 24 draft, had exactly the positions and the players depth wise and what the Bears needed. It was deep at quarterback. It was deep at receiver. It was deep in offensive line. It was deep of defensive edge rushers. It was deep in all the areas where the Bears needed the most. It had several centers you could have taken. It was everything the Bears needed.
Or something is what you're saying, or like
I'm saying, if you want to put me in some camp, I'm in the camp of the hall, so to speak.
Yeah.
And saying that you could have, and I'm not saying that you had to trade down twice. I'm not saying all that elaborate stuff. But even if you made a simple trade down with Washington, you can't tell me that people are like, oh, if Jaden Daniels here, there's no way he survives this year. I'm like, you know what? Actually, if you really want to take it into context, Shane Waldron, his system, Jaden Daniels probably works better in that system because for no other reason, Jaden doesn't hold on to the ball. You look at what Shane Waldron did with Geno Smith. Now, I thought the Seattle Seahawks were crazy to let Russell Wilson go when they did. I'm like, you let Russell go? Like, what do you have behind him? I'm like, Geno, I didn't even know he was still in the league. Like, okay, whatever. I guess you know. And the Seattle made the playoffs. Geno's comeback player of the year. Shane Waldron was offensive coordinator. And then, Geno had a decent year the following year as well. And it's like Caleb holds on to the ball. Caleb tries to do a lot. And as a rookie, that's how he's built. And I'm not knocking him. I'm saying understanding who he is and trying to have that system work for him may not have been the right offensive coordinator. It might not have been the right marriage. Conversely, if you were to trade it down, let's say to Washington, because Caleb's from the DMV area, you trade him to Washington, and you get whatever picks. You don't ask for the farm, but you get some of the animals on it, and you get Jaden Daniels. In this system, Jaden Daniels probably works a little bit better. Not only that, but Jaden has proven he's a lot more accurate, especially deep throwing the ball, than what Caleb has been. And so some of those plays, and Caleb, and here, again, just for everybody who thinks I'm knocking Caleb, I'm not. I think he did a fantastic job surviving this season. And not only that, but putting up some numbers. Some of them might have been empty calories, but he still put up the numbers. He still had a good touchdown interception ratio. I think he got better in terms of understanding the dynamics of being in the NFL. I think he'll grow from it. I think he is a focused young man. I think he's dedicated to wanting to be the best. So that's fine. I'm just saying in terms of what the Bears could have gotten, potentially speaking. Now, that being said, the argument is just because the Bears would have got that talent, who's to say that Poles doesn't draft bad players? that could still happen too.
Right.
But I just think that a lot of hubris went into this past draft because of where he thought, and I don't know why he thought so strongly that the Bears were a player or two away from being a playoff team, especially considering the division that you're in. I mean, if we can see and tell that it's going to be a tough division, I don't know why he couldn't. And you're going to put a rookie quarterback in there and you don't have things to support him, i.e. a veteran quarterback and a better offensive line and an offensive coordinator whose system doesn't seem to be quite suited to what Caleb does. I question that. I'm like, are you really going to be the person that we need going forward to make the decision on picking, the next coaching staff, or at least head coach who picks the coaching staff? And then you got to do it sooner or later. And I'm not pumped for some of these. I'm not pumped for McCarthy. I know you mentioned McCown earlier. No, on that.
Wait. Give me a minute. See if I can change your mind.
So, but anyway, just to kind of round up what else, I know I went on several different tangents. My point is, I think the McCaskies are a big problem because of the leadership that's hired reflects in a lot of ways, I think the things that they seem to hold important. And one of the things that they seem to hold important is their image, this family-friendly image that they seem to be purporting. I think it gets in the way of hiring the coaches that need to do the things to develop the players and to hold everyone else accountable so that those things can be done. That's been a big issue. That's something that if you look back, has been reoccurring for decades now. And by keeping polls in place and not making a move there, to me, it signals business as usual. So that's kind of my encapsulation of what I was thinking.
I just want to throw on that because how can I say anything to argue with any of that?
Please do. I mean, convince me otherwise.
I'm going to throw what I talk to a lot of Bears fans, man, because they're all over the place. Okay. And they're like, Bears fans today are going, what the fuck? How come Washington is in the playoffs? And how come the Buccaneers turned it around last year and went right to the playoffs after losing Brady? And how come the Vikings had no fucking quarterback at the end of last year? But I mean, I know they're out, but they made it to the playoffs and won all these games.
Yeah.
Took the Lions 3 years to put that team together. we're going to year 4 in year 3, we went backwards. We regressed.
Yes.
So as Bears fans screaming and yelling, I don't know how they could disagree with any of that, because it's just been, and we've said it 1,000 freaking times, Shorty, it's been a continual mess. I like your every 20 years thing. That's
I thought
pretty good. I mean, if you go back to the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, the Bears were always good then. They didn't always win the NFL championship or the AAFL championship, but they were always good for the first 30 years of the history of the NFL. It didn't start
until the Super Bowl era.
Until really, if you look, even the 50s were kind of okay until the 60s when the Packers took over. But oh, man.
Yeah, we won what, 63, 64, somewhere around
63.
there. Yeah. So then we won 85. That's another 20.
Right.
Then we went back in 2006, 2007, somewhere around there.
We have
every 20
championships of any team in the history.
It sucks. That's what's got to stop. It's every 20 years, because
hey, another
20, I won't freaking be here.
I understand your dismay. I'm going to make at least 2 more. At least this one, and I got 1 more left in me potentially.
It's like
You're confident. I'm hoping to just get this one, and if I make the next one, God willing,
we win all these championships. We're the best team in the league by far for so many of those beginning years. As soon as the Super Bowl comes out, boom, the Packers win the first one. It's the fucking Lombardi Trophy. That's wrong.
On the first 2, that's what.
Yeah, well, yeah, but I kind of want to, because this is all just. Hearsay, not hearsay, but what could have been, what should have been. I can go on a Muggs Hallis rant again if you want. I can do that. But have you heard my first one?
No.
Muggs Hallis
What's the
died in 1979 of a heart attack. He was the heir to the throne of the team. Once he died, the heir went to Virginia, right? Okay. After George died, Virginia and the McCarthy family took over the Bears. They immediately wrote out his 2 children out of the will. Years later, about 3-4 years later, they took him to court for this. And his children and his ex-wife, Muggs' children and his ex-wife, took Virginia and the McCarthys to court over this, over being written out of the will. Why would they write him out of the will? So in all of the legal jargon, they started to feel something nefarious was going on, because they started to come out where they're like, well, nobody's ever died of a heart attack in our family at that young of an age. Something nefarious is going on. So they literally had Muggs' body exhumed, Glynn, and found that all of his organs, the coroner found that all of his organs were replaced with sawdust. And the coroner said to himself, he said, we don't do that. We always put the organs back in just in case of a day like this where the body is exhumed and we have to have another autopsy done. So my question is, why in the hell did they write his children out of the will to begin with that even caused another autopsy to happen that found all of his organs were replaced with sawdust? That right there is, once Muggs died, it just fucked this team into the McCarthy ownership, because Virginia had no idea. She's a fan, just like her sons are, and her husband was. But Muggs Hallis hired Jim Finks and Jerry Vianese and the guys that orchestrated the 5 team. He was the one. He was the president.
So you're saying sell the team. I'm hearing sell the team is what I'm hearing, but it's just not going to happen.
I was at that game. We were at that game. Foster and I were at that game chanting "Sell the team" against the Seahawks.
Yep.
What?
So,
no
yes.
super chats?
Yeah. What the hell, guys? No super chats?
What? No super chats?
How dare you? How dare you not super chat us yet? It's so funny. So I want to switch gears though, out of the what could have been, what should have been. We here's some things we know. Ryan Poles is not fired.
I was going to say, let me take the reins here. Glenn had made a good point. He actually mentioned unprompted about the Jones family. And I know there's some Cowboys fans in chat, so I don't know if now's an appropriate time, gentlemen, but I would love to know what you guys think of the possibility of big, let me emphasize, big Mike McCarthy coming to Chicago and potentially being the Bears' next head coach.
Right. I want to
Take it away. Take it away.
Hey,
take it away, man. Come on, take it away.
My first choice, though, Glenn, and I know you're going to shit on this, is Josh McCown, and here's why. J2K was waiting for it. Here you guys go. Josh McCown. So let me ask you this question: If you could go back and redo the 1999 draft, whatever the Tom Brady is, wouldn't you take him first? If you could go back and redo the 2018 draft, wouldn't you? No matter what team you are, wouldn't you take Patrick Mahomes first? Yeah. Okay, so look ahead in 2 years when Josh McCown is the hot coaching candidate coming into the league, and everyone wants Josh McCown as their head coach, and we're sitting here right now and we can have him as head coach, but we have this silly process we have to go through that says that he has to become an offensive coordinator first, and he has to call plays and all that shit. But meanwhile, we're just gonna pass that up because we feel it's too early, or he's not even on our radar. As a fan base, I should say, not even ownership. He's definitely not on ownership's radar. But this guy, to me, is when you look at what he did, he's played on 18 seasons, 12 different offenses. How many offenses has this guy learned? What kind of playbook could he put together based on that? He's basically been an offense and a quarterback's coach his entire NFL career, backing up every other starter he backed up. He has been a head coach for, albeit a high school team, but he was also one of the, if you remember the Trestman era, which I know you do, remember when he came in and ignited that team? We started winning games. We kicked the Cowboys' ass when they were like the one of the best teams in the league at the time. He was in that zone, dude. And we just pulled him out to put Cutler back in because we had already paid him this $160 million contract or whatever, like a year and a half before. And so we're going to – Trestman's like, no, management was like, no, we're putting Cutler back in despite the high hand. And we ended up missing the playoffs that year again. But that was the year I remember learning that he was everyone's best friend on that team. He was a leader of men, not a leader of men, but a leader of men. He led men. That's an inside joke.
Did he lead them into the leader?
He led them. He wasn't a leader of men, as in a half pint or whatever that is. But he was a field general for us. He's worked his way very quickly into being. Look what he's done with Sam Darnold in a year. This guy is going to ascend to the top, in my opinion, in the next couple of years. And we're sitting here in that window when we could just go, we're going to use some forward vision, some foresight, and we're going to bring this guy in now, even though current measures say that he's not currently ready yet because he hasn't gone through this process. I say patooey on that because there's a lot of great coaches that never called plays. Mike Ditka was one of them. Dan Campbell is another one of them. There's another couple of them in the NFL right now. I've lost my train of thought.
Why are you so quick to crown Dan Campbell as a great head coach? He was not about to be fired, but he was a really hot seat candidate until Ben Johnson saved him, in my opinion.
In my opinion, it was kind of like a process that they knew they were going through, and I don't think he was ever on the hot seat.
Is that process named desperation? Okay, I'll stop bothering you.
Maybe, but my point is, Glenn, what happens if you find out in 5 years he's like the next Jim Harbaugh, and we could have just pulled the trigger right now on him, and he could be our head coach for the next 20 fucking years? But we're not going to do that because he hasn't even called plays yet. Well, in my opinion, he has played so much football and been around so many NFL teams. None of that matters. He's already like it's ingrained in him. He
it does matter.
embodies it.
But it does matter.
It seeps from his pores. Football does.
It does matter, because it's one thing to be a player, it's another thing to be a teacher, it's another thing to be a leader. And you're asking someone to make that transition and being a leader when you just yourself said that he was a good buddy to a lot of his teammates. It's just one thing to have their ear and to have their confidence. It's another thing when you have to make tough decisions when you're the leader. And he hasn't been in a position yet that we've seen where he's had to make any kind of tough decisions, so to speak. I recently spoke, if I can right quick, I recently spoke with a guy, former NFL player, had some Pro Bowl years as a receiver in NFL, and we're watching a college game, and we both were making comments like different plays or different things that we thought that the team should do to execute better, or the type of plays to be called. Like, why aren't they doing this? Why, something as simple as call a screen pass or call draw play, or whatever, just things that seem to make sense.
Situational football.
Yes, situational football. Thank you. And I said to him, I said, his response to me was, he says, there's not a lot of really good coaching out there. I said, seriously? He said, yeah. He said, even at the professional level. He says, especially at the professional level. Because when I said, well, why? And his reason is, a lot of times guys are hiring their friends. Guys that played the position doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to coach the position. And then it's a little bit of nepotism, obviously, to some degree, and that's part of it. I get it. I'm not knocking that, but it's more so you got guys in place who are in leadership positions that aren't used to having to make that kind of call. Not everybody can coach, basically what it gets down to. And so you need to prove that. And when you're asking someone to be the head coach, I need to know that you can coach. I need to know that you can coach not just your position, but a unit, not just your unit, but an entire, side of the ball. So I'm of the sort that you need to have some kind of experience shown on your resume that lets me know that whether or not you're a special teams coach, or if you're, passing coordinator or whatever, something where you're in charge of a unit, not just a specific position, because you have to have a bigger, a wider scope, a more of a macro aspect of looking at things, as opposed to the micro aspect of position coaching.
Let me ask you this question. So, based on Josh McCown's resume so far as a player in all of his years in the league and all the teams he's played for, offenses he's learned, blah, blah, blah. How do you feel about him right now in his coaching? Like, oh, you're drinking the scotch tonight. Love it.
No, a little bit of Hennessy.
Oh, Hennessy. So how do you feel about him and what he's done in his very short coaching career in the NFL? And that's my first part to the question. And after you answer that, I'll ask the next one.
Again, I think I need a little bit more to see.
You need more.
You gave him some credence when it came to Sam Darnold. When, quite honestly, not that I'm being dishonest, but quite candidly, I feel that Sam Darnold got some of the bad juju out of him in San Francisco last year. And because these systems are very similar, because they're all learned under Daddy Shanahan system, and Connell subsequently, all these guys, McVay, all these guys come from Danny Shanahan's tree. That concept-wise, when Darnold got here, he hit the ground running. There may be a tweak with a word here or there, but conceptually everything was the same. So it wasn't anything he had to learn. And the amount of talent on that team already offensively, the offensive line, the receivers and running backs, particularly having Aaron Jones back there. Because I think, I'm going on a tangent here, but I think Love struggled because Jones wasn't there. Love did better last year with Green Bay every time Jones was in the lineup. When Jones wasn't in the lineup was when he struggled in 2023. When Jones got back, his play picked back up. And the reason why I say this is because Jones is excellent in pass pro, and he's also a very good receiver, not just in terms of catching the ball at the backfield, but actually running routes out on the field. But that kind of versatility and that kind of leadership, it shows, and and you can see that. And not only that, but you look what O'Connell did in 2023 with that litany of crap-ass quarterbacks he had. they were still competitive. So I don't put as much on Josh McCown's plate in terms of him being the chef behind all that. I think he was someone that came to the table when things were already kind of there to some degree. I think he just maybe add a little salt, a little pepper to it, but I don't think he's responsible for making the dish. And so I need to see a little bit more in terms of his ability to cook when it comes to other positions, or be it the quarterback, or what his influence really is going to be. So I think McCown playing with all those teams, I get your point. There's a lot of information that he may have, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be a person who was great at disseminating it. I mean, I need to see more. He seems like a good dude. I'm not knocking him as a person. I think he's someone who's coaching material. I agree with that. I think he needs to pay a little bit more dues, and I think we need to see, something. Just you look at Aaron Glenn, for example, on Detroit staff. He's been coaching for a long time. Now, that guy was a hell of a defensive back. Can't tell me he wasn't. Can't tell me he didn't know the position.
Right.
But you still got to learn how to coach, and you got to learn how to deal with adverse situations. You have to learn how to deal with players. All these different things. There's something to that. There's a knack to that. That's why those that do very well, those who have that sustainability, there's something about what makes them viable and sustainable that's more than just I played the game or I've been around. There's other things that are involved to that, other nuances to that. Campbell brings a certain something. Tomlinson brings a certain something. You look at the Harbaughs, they bring a certain something. There's a reason why those guys continue to win, and attract other coaches to them. That was Lovey's problem to me. Lovey never had that ability. I don't know if it was his charisma or what, but he just not, especially offensively, he didn't have that connectivity to anybody. And I think he got a little bit of concern about trying to keep his job, and maybe get a little paranoid because Ron Rivera pretty much ran him out. So maybe paranoia along with a lack of being able to really communicate or be communicable to other people in terms of networking. I think those things worked against him. You look at a guy like John Fox. John Fox never struck me as like some genius coach, but he could attract a lot of good coaches, and he is good at seeing the big picture. Some guys are better CEOs and managers at being head coach than they are being specific play callers. So I agree with you. You don't have to be a great play caller to be a head coach. I agree with that wholeheartedly. But you've got to be able to see the big picture. You've got to be able to lead people. You've got to be able to attract talent, and you've got to be able to hold people accountable. Those are the things I'm looking for in a head coach. And that's not something that can be proven by someone who just coached for a little bit to me.
So let's just fast forward. We're 4 years into the future right now. We're having this conversation. If I were to ask you at this point if Josh McCown was one of the top coaches in the league, and I would have said, and I said to you, like, is hindsight 2020? Because I basically, what I'm trying to do is, I'm trying to look and go, listen, I'm recognizing someone with my own pontification of shit that I've come together as a Bears fan, that I'm just trying to look for like outside of the box, like a not like something that is going to actually work and not be a McCaskey moron. That isn't I'm kind of like hindsighting into the future already. So in the future, we go, well, hindsight is 2020. Well, go back to fucking 4 years ago when I was pounding the table for Josh McCown. We could have signed him then. So would you agree that in 4 years from now, or are you still sticking to that point where like, well, I couldn't have known?
What I'm saying is sometimes you could hire somebody too soon and they're not ready for it, and then they're in a situation where
it wouldn't have mattered anyway. Yeah, because we would have messed it up.
Yeah, you can mess up their career. They may not be ready for it. So I get your enthusiasm, and I understand I understand aspects of your passion. Although sometimes I look at it and I enjoy it from afar. When you ask me about it, pragmatically, I'm like, sometimes it's like you can, man, it's crazy because you can pretty much say it almost about any player, any position, any coach. Sometimes it's when and where you're hired. It's timing, the right place at the right time. That means something. You can hire. I mean, think about how many players have left the Bears and gone on to have success elsewhere. Think about some coaches that may have left and gone on and had success elsewhere. Think about, and not just the Bears. You can think, you can almost say that for any team across any sports diaspora that you want to pick from. But it's timing. When you're there, at the time you're there, are you ready for the opportunities? Are the opportunities? Are you able to handle the adversity if the opportunity isn't on a platter for you? How do you adjust, and then how do you continue to repeat? How do you repeat that? Going forward. Dan Campbell. If he came to the Lions 2 years sooner, maybe it was 2 years too soon. He had to be with the right GM. The owner, but I can't believe the woman who's in charge now. I know she's part of the family, and she took over from her mother. But maybe if she wasn't in place, somebody else was in place before Dan Campbell got hired. They don't have the same patience, and that 0.188 winning percentage we saw, he's out of the window, and so then he doesn't get another head coaching job because he's another Lions guy that didn't do well, just like some guys didn't do well for Cleveland. It's just right place, right time with the right people. There's a certain mix. Sometimes it's science, and sometimes it's like penicillin. It's an accident.
Yeah.
But then it's a cure-all when it works.
Foster, you have any last thoughts on my umpteenth million Josh McCown rant before I move on to the next question?
I've done it for 3 weeks already, Glenn. So I don't have any more to go into that. I mean, I could, but I thought we'd jump into, because everyone knows what the talk is. Mike McCarthy was in town, or is whatever the in-person getting him here by a private plane and all this stuff. I mean,
all right, so I want to know in chat, and Foster, you first, Glenn second. Okay, who do you think the Bears are going to hire? And you can follow it up with who you want. Go ahead, Foster. Who do you think it will be? And
this is just out of habit, because it's always going to be the third guy who's cheaper. And I'm going on. History repeats itself. If they could, they'd get the coach from Iowa State.
Karl, can you pull up a Drew Petzing picture?
Because he's going to be the cheapest.
Come on it, boss.
I don't even know who I'd like him to get. There's been so much stuff in the chat and so many different names mentioned. What have they brought in here now? 17 guys, or there was 17 guys on the Zoom list. I think we were talking about this last week, and I said, yeah, it's all a smoke screen. They've got what they want. They might be getting some information, but a lot of it is just procedure through the NFL. They've got to interview some of these people. I don't know, man. I'm really lost. Everybody loves Ben Johnson. Okay, how many times have we brought in a first-time head coach and they're gone in 3 or 4 years? That seems to be a cycle. We could
it'll be that guy though.
Take that all the way back to the 1960s and 70s, because we started doing it when Halas finally retired from coaching the last time. Third or fourth choices, guys came in here, were gone in 3 years. I can't even remember one. First one was gone in a year. Abe Gibbon 3 years. Right down the line, man. Neil Armstrong, Jack Pardee. There's so many names I can't even go on. But none of them seem to last more than 3 years. I think Pardee left on purpose because I think he went to Washington because he knew what this organization was. I might be wrong. I don't remember what Jack did, but I think he's the one who left on purpose.
Yeah, I think he finished at Washington. Maybe I know he was at Houston back when they had the running gun, and Betty Ryan was the defensive.
Yeah, maybe I got it flipped, but I think he's like the only one that, if you go back and look at the coaches, he's like the only one who left on the Bears. Left.
Yeah.
Wasn't fired. I mean, literally.
Good for him.
He did not. He could have come back, and he left. So I mean, that's one in 60 years. One. What does that even say? What does it even say?
I don't know if it says anything.
I don't either, but I'm just saying. I try to look at everything from all angles, because I just know you can't do this, because it's not going to help.
I've created a bunch of pontificators on this channel. I know that much.
Yeah, but I mean, the names going around are the same. I don't really have anyone in mind right now. I was like, oh, what if they hire Mark McCarthy and they brought in Chico and they make him the defensive coordinator? Now you're talking two experienced NFL head coaches and guys who have done this, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do, because like I said, give me the second or third choice and the cheapest coach. That's who they're going to hire because that's what they would do.
Exactly.
I'm just where are we at? Does anybody really know? Anybody got a good answer for this?
No,
Yeah,
that's the point. We're all fucking clueless.
Go ahead. Glenn.
I don't
wanna hear
know that
yours.
I don't know that Chico wants to be a coordinator again. One, because he's getting up there a little bit, and if he's going to make
He might
that
for the
forward
Bears, though.
step, I think that's the fan in you talking, and I get it. I don't know that he feels that much loyalty to the Bears. I think he may have felt it maybe some time ago.
Yeah.
But after what happened with Lovey, and I don't think he felt that the Bears sided with him. I don't know if that same sense of, connectedness is still there in an emotional way. In terms of, when it comes to the business of being a coach, I think in terms of coming back for reunions, it's there, but I don't think it's there, as far as being a coach. Your question was, who do I think the Bears will hire? I think because there's been so much talk, and the Bears seem to be a very reactive organization, especially when the fans really seem to be an uproar. Such a talk on first-time coaches not working. I think they are. Why McCarthy seems to be someone they really targeted early on. I think that someone like him, I don't know if they're outside of he and Vrabel and Rivera. I don't know that there's another successful, quote unquote, former coach that's out there floating around. I think McCarthy is someone that they're seriously considering. I think that's someone that they are comfortable with hiring, and they being the Bears / McCaskey led coaching searching parties tend to go for what they feel comfortable with. So I'm going to think that. As far as who I think they should hire, I'm open. I hear talk Ben Johnson may not be the quote unquote have that energy or that fire that leads men, so to speak. I don't know.
He might get annoying really quick in the
Yeah,
wrong environment, right?
I don't know. I mean, Tony Dungy never struck me as a guy who raised his voice. He's very, soft spoken, but yet, earnest person. I don't know Ben Johnson. I mean, he seems to be doing well in that environment in Detroit. Um, so I'm not pissed. I think offensively, his success definitely helps when you have an offensive line, so you can have time to do the plays that they want to do. So he might need a better offensive line to kind of implement the offense he wants. So I'm a little concerned there that this structure may not be ready for him yet.
Yep.
But I like Liam Cohen out of Tampa Bay. I think he's done a really good job with uh, Baker Mayfield, not just this year, but I think offensively in a lot of ways. Uh, Things with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I don't know how much Canellis, kind of in and out. But I think Cohen to me shows that he's got a little more stick to itiveness to what he does. Their play calling seems to be more reflective of a Bear style, where they do emphasize on run, play action, things of that nature. I think the way the Bears are currently constituted with their roster, I think it fits more so where his skill set is shown to be productive in Tampa Bay. I think it can be as equally uh, productive here in Chicago, especially when the Bears focus on changing offensive line, which they have to do. There's at least 4 players they need to replace, no less than 3. And if they do that, I think you can have, if he's here and he's a head coach / offensive coordinator, I think you can have, if nothing else, I think you'll have a situation where Caleb gets the ball out of his hands. Caleb's not asked to have to sit behind an offensive line that can't block for him. I think there are things done here to help the quarterback, is my point. I don't think Shane Waldron's system was one that was conducive to that. And although Thomas did the best that he could, again, you're at that point, you're trying to put your hole in a dam and the water's leaking everywhere.
I am.
So that'll be my guy as far as if you're getting a first time head coach.
Yeah. You heard my rant on who I want, and that's
I like
never going to.
Florida.
Josh McCown will never happen. They're not. He's
I
not
like,
even on the radar. They're not interviewing him. It's never going to happen. So I have to get that out of my head. At me as a fan, my next choice was Vrabel with Josh McDaniels because I know Josh McDaniels has done well with a good quarterback as an offensive coordinator in New England, and he's a shit ass head coach. And he's tried a couple times and he's failed both times. Dramatically failed. So he's not going anywhere. But that's out the door. So my next choice, well, it was Ben Johnson, but I was reluctant with that, and it only was because I don't want. I like to put all of my Bears coaches in a lineup and find the dorkiest looking ones, and that's going to be a McCaskey hire. And if I can just eliminate all those dorks, Ben Johnson he's left standing. Yeah, here we go. Look at all these dorks. Like, who is the one to just pick out the coolest looking guys, and they're not going to hire that guy. You got Mike Vrabel, looks too cool. Pete Carroll looks too cool. Aaron Glenn looks too cool. Ben Johnson looks way too cool. Mike Kafka from the Giants he's right there. Joe Brady, he's got some McCaskey dorkism to him. Right below him, the Iowa State head coach, total dork. To his left, Todd Monken, total McCaskey dork. So this just eliminates the board for me. So what I like now, unfortunately, is because I have.
That's hilarious.
What's that? What'd you say?
See, that's hilarious. That's hilarious. I love the pictures you have.
You got to just pick out the dorks. So for me, I have spent most of my life, a good portion of my life, hating Mike McCarthy and calling him Porky Pig every time I saw his.
Wow, really? Every body shaming here?
Oh, I was body shaming his fat Porky Pig fucking.
Yeah, I second this absolutely.
He's a fucking Packer. Packers, other than death, I like knee injuries, hip injuries. Bring it on. I don't care. I laugh at those for Packers. All the other teams.
Shit. Fuck Green Bay.
Yes, sir. All other teams. I'm like, God, I can't believe I would never like to see anyone injured like that unless he's on the Packers. Fuck the Packers. So, Porky Pig as their head coach forever. I would feel like a hypocrite liking Mike McCarthy as our coach. But I sit here and I look at his availability now, and I look at what's available to us. Can you pull up that list again, Karl? The picture of these dorks. I mean, Mike McCarthy is the guy out of all these guys because all the cool guys are not going to make this list. So Mike McCarthy, and by the way, per the title of the show, the next Mike. So Mike McCarthy, you can take it down. Thank you, Karl. Mike McCarthy has done what? What do we know about Mike McCarthy? He has worked with quarterbacks really well, right? In Green Bay, Favre and Rodgers. Yeah.
He inherited Rodgers.
Shush. What has he done? He took a middling Dak Prescott and made him an MVP candidate.
That team is so talented. I mean, come on.
He has gone to the playoffs 12 times in 18 years for two teams.
Talented team.
Here's my concern is he doesn't win those playoff games, but he gets you there. And at least if we're there every year, that's all we need, right? Like then we can start bitching about not winning them. So
has he taken a team that wasn't talented? Every team you mentioned to me was talented. I mean, the Packers were a good team. They were a playoff caliber team. The Cowboys
never viewed Packers as talented though, other than their quarterback. It seems like that was
your bias. That's your Packer hate talking right there.
But they drafted like guys that weren't like top spectrum guys that. Well, you might. I can tell by the look on your face as a draft analyst. You're like, no, you're wrong.
Yeah,
But in my opinion, like every time they drafted somebody, I laughed. Like, who's that fucking guy? That guy's an idiot. And then I'm like, oh, he's the best offensive lineman in the league.
Did you
Okay.
say that when they drafted Rodgers?
they draft really well. They do a good job drafting. They have to because they're Green Bay. It's hard to attract free agents to that town.
Yeah. Yep.
So they have to draft well. So
Even though if you really got into the NFL and like realize what they have going on up there, a small town, all the houses around the stadium, everyone's like having a good time in everyone's front yards. It's
awesome.
It's really a fun atmosphere.
Yeah, I love going to Green Bay.
Never been there, but I hear about it. I'd love to.
Dude, I'm not a Packer fan. You'll never see me in any Packer gear. Hate the Packers. That being said, I love going up to Lambeau Field to catch a game, especially when it's Bears Packers. Even though I've never gone and they've won, I enjoy going, and it's to the point now that I don't even get a ticket for the game. I just go. There's like 3 bars more or less on the outside.
Yeah.
You're in a neighborhood. Buddies of mine, they live in the area, so tailgating. It is so
having a good time. Yeah,
great time. I talk a lot of shit, and then I end up buying drinks for people.
Yeah.
But it's like a good rivalry kind of crap talking, and I've never had any altercations, any issues one way or the other. It's just I've enjoyed it, and it is one of it's a venue that if you haven't had a chance to go to. I think I may go up there for the draft this year as well, just to hang up there for that weekend because I can just imagine how much they're going to really put out, them being the Packers, an organization, just to have that up there. It's some places like Green Bay, Chicago. You should have the draft there just because these are stalwart franchises that have been there since the beginning of the NFL.
I worked with a guy for 15 years, a Packer fan. He kept trying to get me to go to a game in Lambeau. He went to like 3 with me in Soldier Field. We lost all of them in the Favre era. And I was just like, no, I'm never going to go up there. Like, fuck Lambeau. But like, now, I wish I would have.
Yeah. It's the first time I went, I'm like, where are we going? Are we going to pick up somebody else? Like, come on, we're going to miss the game. Next thing I know, we're in a neighborhood. Next thing I know, boom, Lambeau Field. I'm like, whoa, this is like in a neighborhood. we're tailgating on someone's front lawn, and the stadium's right across the street. It blew my mind. And I've been there several times. Cold, mild weather, all that stuff doesn't matter, man. It is an enjoyable place to go. And I hate the Packers. I love rooting against them.
God,
and I still go. I hate Alabama football. I would still go to up there in Tuscaloosa and watch a game. I fucking hate the Florida Gators. But if I ever get a chance to go to Gainesville, I would go there. I will scream my loudest, Rocky Top high. But then in some places, man, it's just you just need to go. Just because whether or not they're the enemy or not. I think when they are the opposition, it makes it that much sweeter if you can go, especially if you guys can win. But
For sure,
it's a good deal. So if you get a chance, man, anybody listening, get a chance if you haven't been, and if you've been, please chime in and echo the sentiments, because I'm pretty sure that if you've been, you feel the same way I have. It's a great place to catch a game.
Yeah, and there was a Packer fan here earlier, so I'd love to hear your thoughts on that in chat. If you've ever been to or in the comments after the show, if you're listening, after it's live, like if you've been to a Packer game in Lambeau, a Bears Packers game, what it was like, because I do hear good things too, like what you're saying, Glenn. I just think for me right now, I'm out of choices. It's Mike McCarthy. I hate to say that, but I think that his work with quarterbacks over the years, I think he's on that, like, right. Thank you. He's like, he was this back in the day, right? And now he's kind of becoming old school, and there's this new school taking over after that, and he's on that verge of like right there between old school and new school football. I think if the Bears are gonna overcompensate like they did with John Fox after the Trestman debacle era, I think that he would Pete Carroll's too old, so I think that McCarthy would be at least on the verge enough to like I think he could do wonders with Caleb Williams, and I think he could bring this team back to, what we kind of think it could be. And we all know Poles is not going anywhere at this point anymore, so maybe they can work well together to bring in the talent he wants. Because somebody asked in chat earlier, who'd you rather, like, almost going from Jerry Jones to the McCaskies would be like a godsend, right? Because you have like one controlling asshole and you have another guy that's just like, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do?
Well, these stats right here that Karl brought up as far as McCarthy being offensive coordinator, it just doesn't look very good. It looks a little dubious. I mean, it's average at best is what it looks like. So, and I remember Aaron Brooks. I do, and with the Saints, take them to the playoffs. And I know he was part of the Packers. Of all those quarterbacks that came under Favre, Brunell and Brooks and Hasselbeck, all those guys went on to take other teams to the playoffs. So, at least
but Aaron Brooks had 4 seasons better than Caleb Williams just had, and he's our 5th best quarterback statistically.
Little nugget here, okay? Look at that bottom line. That's Alex Smith as a rookie. And I believe McCarthy would have been involved in deciding that the 49ers should have drafted Alex Smith instead of Aaron Rodgers. Then, my point with McCarthy has always been exactly what Morgan said. You inherited Aaron Rodgers. And there's this narrative about how McCarthy is a quarterback whisperer. No, Brett Favre is the main contributor to the success that I think Aaron Rodgers had in a combination to Aaron Rodgers' God-given ability, right? So, ironic that the Packers got the lucky end because the Bears, of course, passed on Mahomes, took Trubisky, and then we got Nagy the year after, right? Isn't that weird how shit works out?
We keep saying Mahomes. Mahomes was a nobody.
No, I understand, but my point is just that it's kind of similar.
At least say Deshaun Watson. Now, I know he's
that's a better argument for sure.
But Deshaun Watson was the known commodity, and we took a guy from the same conference that Watson was in, and he was in the weaker division of that conference and finished 3rd that year. Didn't even finish well enough to challenge for the conference title. And we're going to take him over a guy that went to won back-to-back ACC championships and went to back-to-back national championships and put up numbers against Alabama, who we've rarely seen anybody do that in back-to-back games. He was so good against Alabama in the loss that when Alabama took the lead in that game towards the end, they did an onside kick. They took the lead and did an onside kick. You've never seen that. Who the hell does that? And when asked about that, Saban said, well, we couldn't stop him. So we didn't want him to get the ball again. And we didn't pick that guy.
Yeah, I remember Trubisky being labeled as the safe quarterback. And there were so many people who said that Trubisky was the top quarterback prospect because of his floor, which a lot of people would have agreed with. But why are you trading up for that? That is what pisses me off with Trubisky.
Why would you agree? Why would anybody agree to that based on the other guy's floor? When the other guy's floor is winning games and going to national championships and being the straw that stirs the drink. You can't tell me in that game that they won against Alabama, he wasn't the big reason why they won the game. He was struggling in the first half because they figured out Saban had played him the year before and figured out a way to stop him. Instead of trying to come from the edges, we're just going to come straight up the middle at you. And so in halftime, they figure out enough, and Watson's able to execute whatever they figured out at halftime and throws a game-winning touchdown pass. And then the head coach says, hey, and this is Dabo, hey, he's like our Michael Jordan. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Chicago. You're giving Chicago a layup, and they still won't take it. And you pick a guy that couldn't even compete in that conference, the same conference that Watson was in, makes no sense. And even in the bowl game against Stanford, I'm watching that bowl game, North Carolina against Stanford. Trubisky's playing quarterback. And I come away from after watching that game and go, damn, that guy should be playing on Sundays. It wasn't Trubisky. It was a guy chasing Trubisky. That's the guy that I came away saying should be playing on Sundays, not Trubisky. Trubisky should have gone back another year. And on top of that, if you can go back into the video and audio archives, I forget who the head coach was at North Carolina at the time. He said reluctantly that he felt that Mitch should have come back for another year. And coaches usually don't want to say that because they don't want to ruin two things they don't want. Two reasons why they don't want to mess up the kids' money, obviously. But another thing is you want to be able to recruit other players, and if players feel like you're speaking against them, they may not come to you. There's only two coaches that I can recall that said while the player was being recruited or being drafted or in the process being an NFL prospect where they felt they should have come back, and that was Brian Kelly said it about the kid that came out the same year. I think was it the same year Trubisky came out? The kid from Notre Dame, I can't remember the quarterback. I think Green Bay. I think Cleveland ended up taking him. Then Green Bay, I think later on, I can't remember the kid's name, but the young man's name. But Brian Kelly said he should have stayed another year. And I remember the head coach of North Carolina saying Trubisky should have probably. He said it reluctantly. It was like he was twisting his arm. So yeah, I'm sorry. Whenever I hear the "we don't take Mahomes" thing, that's Mahomes after the fact, because Mahomes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Mahomes came from Texas Tech, where none of those quarterbacks had a cup of water in the pros.
That was my first question to you about one of my first questions about hiring McCown was if you would have known if hindsight was 2020 or hindsight was 22 and you could go into the future and know.
No.
You would. So
I'm going to take my headset. I'm going to take my headset. I'm about to break something.
You would not take Mahomes first.
Fuck no!
I wouldn't either.
It has nothing to do with Mahomes' ability. We got to take into consideration timing, what you're bringing into here. It's not Mahomes
what
that you
team you went to.
Mahomes sat for a year on a playoff caliber team. He sat for a year on a playoff caliber team.
All right, I'm going to pull my.
He sat for a year on a playoff caliber team. I like Mahomes. There's nothing to do with him or his talent. He sat for a year. You bring him to Chicago, we fucking ruin him. He's not.
No, for sure.
He's so no. It's not. You can't do revisionist history and go if this one thing was the case. You're looking at it in a vacuum, and it's not in a vacuum. You got to take everything into context. I hate that argument so much. I lose my fucking shit like I just did then. Fuck no. No, because
no super chats.
No, it's like Mahomes doesn't solve all your problems. That's the same idiocy that wouldn't have taken Caleb and not giving him a quarterback to help him. That's the idiot. Not that taking Caleb was the wrong thing, but taking it with the thought that he can come in and solve all your problems. No, no,
right.
You
have some egg rolls, some ping ping dong, and
you run the risk of ruining him. You run the risk of him being injured. You run the risk of him getting into bad habits. I mean, look, for as much as Caleb survived this season, there's still a lot of things that have to be weaned out of him. His footwork still needs to get better. He can't hold on to the ball as long as he does. He can't play Superman as much as he needs to work on his accuracy. There's a lot of things, and this organization ran the risk of. I was so pissed the Bears this year. Just like you run the risk of ruining him, you really do. As talented as he is, you run the risk of ruining him. So no, I don't. Yep. I don't look to say if we had Holmes looking at no, because Holmes would still have brought in the same shitty situation that we were in. Now,
I agree. I agree with you on that.
Does Nagy come here the next year and then change everything? I don't know. Possibly. Here's the thing: was Trubisky's wherewithal in terms of his ability to process and learn the system? Because it seemed as though Nagy was set on his system and it didn't fit Trubisky, so he didn't ameliorate it enough to fit Trubisky. So that's again his obstinacy kind of led to his own downfall. With Holmes being here, been able to fit that better, I don't know. Maybe not, because again, you're dealing with different rosters. You're dealing with different talent level in terms of the players around you, the line blocking, so on and so forth.
Every year, yep. Yeah.
So, but no, I don't. I'm sorry. I hate that thing where it's like
No, listen.
We took Trubisky over Mahomes. It's like
this is the show you can blow up on. Please.
I thought we'd sit where we were at and take Deshaun Watson.
Me too.
Yes.
That was my thought the whole draft. I'm like, what the fuck are we even trading up for? What did San Francisco tell us to get us to trade up?
he was stuck on it. They didn't say anything. He just was stuck. He being patient stuck on him and wanted to get his guy. Here's the thing though. If I want to go, and here's where I'll go revisionist history in a sense. We don't move. Let's say Cleveland does take Trubisky. Let's say San Francisco takes Watson. Then you're stuck with Mahomes. Or at worst, the other two guys go and you're still stuck with Trubisky. My point was, to your point, there's no reason to trade up at all. You're going to get one of those three quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Now, why he thought Trubisky was better than those other two, that I don't understand. I don't know, because his arm wasn't stronger than Mahomes. So you can't say he had a stronger arm. You can say he had a better record. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things you say. I mean, I think they finished 8-5 that year.
Arm in the weather.
Trubisky was a one-year starter.
He might have never even had the sex scandal because it's just so every day in Chicago.
Right, like, but he might have been. I think that a lot too. Like, well, thank God we didn't take Watson because he would have like tarnished our beloved Bears culture. But the beloved Bears culture might have kept him out of that.
Maybe not. I mean, Houston's not a small city. Houston's just as big as Chicago. So
yeah, but they don't have the beloved Bears culture we have.
I don't think he's thinking about the culture when he's getting a massage.
Training and shit. That like, oh, don't do this and don't do that. You have to watch a 90-minute video today on how to be a Chicago Bear. Okay, well, let me just do this in my free time.
I think you're going to do what you're going to do. And keep in mind, before that came out, Watson was Mr. All-American. Here's a guy that graduated while he was still playing with 3.5 GPA. Here's a guy that while he was playing and dealing with that, his mother had throat cancer, so he had to deal with that situation and do what he could to help his siblings. On top of that, somehow he found time to build homes for Habitat. This is all while he was in college. So that's why Dabo was like, this guy is the tide that raises all ships. And then when he got to Houston, don't forget they had that big hurricane that hit. And then he gave his first paycheck to two of the women who worked, I think, in the cafeteria or whatever. He gave one of his game checks or whatever to them to help them with their home situation. So here was a guy that was doing all the right things. Hell, JJ fucking Watt apologized to Watson because he felt like we didn't do enough because of all the sacrifices you're making on the field. We didn't do enough to help you win the game. Yeah. So that guy was doing all the right things publicly, but you still are who you are. So whether he was in Chicago or in Houston or, if he was, hell, if he was in a Papal City, he probably still would have been finding some way to do what he did. So but that's just unfortunate. And, that's something that's going to haunt him publicly for probably forever. Wasted. Because he hasn't been the same since.
No.
Foster, it's your turn to talk. You have the mic.
You got an F. You got a big F.
Fuck Mike McCarthy. I don't know if I really want him here or not.
We've been talking more than you. It's your turn.
Mike?
You go.
If they hire McCarthy, they may have to write a clause in his contract: do not overeat and kill yourself at Portillo's.
Wow.
No Chicago pizzas, no Portillo's, Mike.
Come on, you guys.
I got him. That was my goal, to get him to laugh. God bless you, Glenn.
He may get here in part of his marketing development team will have him do some kind of dietary stuff, and the next thing you know, he's Slim Fit McCarthy.
Please feed me Ozempic. Quoted Mike McCarthy. Next,
you'd be like, I love Lou Malnati's pizza with a shot of Ozempic.
Right.
What would the odds be of McCarthy and Urlacher doing like a food commercial together? That would just scar me for life. That'd be terrible.
Like, that's what I mean. Like, I would feel like such a fucking hypocrite as much as, like, I really want McCarthy to be our next head coach because of his quarterback development and if everyone's talking about, we can't hire a rookie head coach right now. We need this to be like so we overreach with McCarthy instead of John Fox. Fine with me. He's an offensive guy. We know he can develop quarterbacks, albeit he's on that spectrum of like about to not be, worthy anymore. Like the next guy is going to take over, and then boom, he'll be like part of the into the abyss that nobody talks about anymore. Coaches, but he's right on that level, and that was what fucking Fox was. Glenn Foster or John Fox was right there. Like, and one more relevance left into the fucking ether. And now we're like, so if that's McCarthy, and we're like, yeah, we're teetering on his worthiness of being a head coach in a modern NFL. Okay, let's do it. I'd be fine with it because I have nothing left other than Josh McCown. I have nothing left. And Glenn, you are our most tenured veteran guest on our show now. This is like your 6th or 7th time.
Okay.
So we'll talk about this in the future when I'm right.
Glenn, you poor bastard.
They gotta fucking told you, Glenn.
Well, hey, I live for when people can tell me I told you so. Doesn't happen very
Me too.
often.
I live for that day. I cannot wait for that day. Because I like you when you first came on the show, we were like right here, right? And then or like right here. Then the next time he came, like, I got this guy. He's totally against ownership. I'm like, fuck the McCaskies. You're like, no, it's not the McCaskies' problem. I'm like, fuck, he just won. Then like the next show you're on, like you like shot me. I'm like, I was totally prepared for you. You shot me down again. I was like, where's this guy going? So now when you wanted to come on tonight, I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to think about this. I can't go too hard in the paint on one direction because people might have a rebuttal for that. And I think tonight we've kind of met back in the middle a little bit. You've put me in my place a little bit about McCown, but also we're in agreement on a lot of things again. It's kind of come back from full circle.
Yeah, I'm never trying to put anyone in their place. That's definitely not my goal. But no, just to be candid, man. I honestly, again, I had to use it very honestly, so I'm not being dishonest. Candidly, we've been around for a while, and by I say that, I mean we've got a number of years that we've been alive, so we've seen a number of things, and you can see some patterns repeat themselves. And just observationally speaking, there are things here that are endemic to the Bears and what the problems are that they create for themselves. And for whatever reason, it's not as simple as back in the 70s, it's like, hey, you don't pay anybody. Okay. 80s, hey, you're still not paying people, you let them go through free agency. Okay, the Bears have modernized enough that they are doing the things that the other NFL teams do in largesse. But the nuances are still escaping them, and that's part of a problem. Sometimes your asset can be your weakness, and for them, their asset is that they're amiable people, that they're open to ideas, but by the same token, they want people to reflect, the ones that they hire to reflect their, and again, this is just my speculation, but to reflect what they value in terms of being a fan-friendly family organization. And when it comes to NFL football, that's not necessarily going to get you to win. I mean, you could say the Steelers are kind of that way, but they handle their business a lot differently than what the Bears do. You can look at the Giants, I'm looking at other family-run organizations. The floors have changed how they've done things, and it's shown. You look at what the Hunts have done. You look at what the Maras and the Giants. They've been up and down, but in the process, they've had some highs, they've had some lows, but they're winning. Their highs have produced championships, and their lows have produced what they're going through right now. But that being said, I wouldn't be shocked if they hit their high and hit their zenith quicker than we do. And by we, I'm talking about Chicago Bears and Bear fandom and media, so on and so forth, or everything that makes up Bear Nation. So you start looking at it. At some point, you peel the way those layers, onion layers, and you get to the core of it. And the one constant are the McCaskies. And what do they consistently do? And it's the people that they hire reflect what they want in those people that they hire. And hence, we have a leadership problem. We have a continuity issue. And that is the consistency that we see.
Full circle to the last show when I was like, I'm certain you're going to totally be on board with this. I was like, it was all, I'm like, fuck the McCaskies and blah, blah, blah. Fuck the McCaskies. She's like, no, it's not the McCaskies. I was like, damn it, Glenn. Like, how is it possible that you thwarted me again on this?
I think here's the thing. I think it was some of the things that we were blaming the McCaskies for. I think those weren't the issues. I think it was you had to look a little bit deeper and look a little bit deeper. You know, in essence, I end up agreeing with you. You know, McCaskies are a problem, are a big part of the problem. But I don't think it's anything that they can't solve. It's just who is going to be the person that like Kevin Warren should be the person that should be able to do this.
Stephen Hallis.
Well, Warren has a position. You know, he has a position of power. He has a position of experience. All these things to where, and he has their ear. That's an important thing. The McCaskey, you have to have their ear. He's in that space and place to do it. It's just he's not. And I don't know. And maybe again, like his focus is probably on the stadium deal and not on the football, you know, stuff he intones from time to time.
It's totally clear what they brought him in for, based on him. They were like, well, we own this land. We're going to make money on this land no matter how you break it down. We want our stadium on the lakefront. Let's bring in Kevin Warren because he got this deal done in Minnesota. He'll get this deal done for us on the lakefront. And they're using the fucking the perfect Arlington property. Although it might piss off a lot of fans that have been going to games that live right down in Chicago, it doesn't benefit all of us that are like taking trains and shit and have to get off on a train and pay $20 to drive us to the stadium and drop us off 18 blocks to walk from there. You know, if we could all just get off at Arlington Stadium, walk to a hotel to spend the night, party there, have a great time. It's like its own city. Make it fucking like open carry, for Christ's sake. It's your own city. And we could all just be having fun, going to games, going to restaurants.
I'm with you. I was the whole Arlington thing that I got sold on the Arlington thing because it looked like a bear emporium. You know, it's like Bear City. It's just like it's like a weekend. You can spend the weekend away.
It's literally Bear City.
Yeah, and you can be a Chicagoan like I am. I'm a South Side guy, but I can spend the weekend in Arlington. And it's no big whoop because now I can travel back. It's only 45-hour at most drive back. You know, it's not the same thing. You know, as if
take a train, maybe
take a train or whatever. You know, if the guys are in for the weekend, if it's a bachelor party. I mean, I'm low for that now, but you know, something like that. You know, I'm thinking other people, not just myself.
Bachelor party anymore?
Yeah, I'm a little past that.
Me too. I'm there.
Most of the guys I know are past that. But you know what I mean. It's just like it's set up for where you can enjoy the weekend, and you could it's still family friendly as well. I've got a grandson. We can go spend the time. You know, there are other things you can. The wife can come in terms of if she doesn't want to go to the game. There are other things and other interests in that whole vicinity that they could do and have fun doing, and it would have been a great time. And then you talk about if they ever have another draft, you've got more than enough. Ability to do things. So a lot of it seemed positive, and for whatever reason or reasons, it's probably not going to happen. Coming back to Chicago off the lakefront, aesthetically, they may build it to where it looks fantastic, and maybe they can make it to where it's multi-purpose, in terms of being able to, play indoor stuff, be it, NCAA tournaments, be it indoor Super Bowl, all that kind of stuff is a possibility, and that's kind of cool. But we all know it's going to be a headache in terms of driving and parking and space and all that, because it's just, you don't have the same space as you did in Arlington. So
my buddy just told me I should get married again so Glynn can go to a bachelor party. I'm like, screw that. I ain't getting divorced for the third time either.
Yeah. Are you still a bachelor after you've been married already? Is that the same thing?
You're still married?
No, I'm not still married. I'm divorced twice.
No, I thought so, but you said you why would you become a bachelor again, meaning you had to get divorced?
No, that's what Glynn said, but my buddy Glynn goes, hey dude, why don't you get married again so Glynn can go to a bachelor party or at the Soldier Field in Arlington Heights. He was doing this whole thing.
Yeah, I'll chime if my grandson does that. I'll chime in there.
I'm texting him, fuck you, Dwayne. I ain't getting married again.
Who would get married after 50 again? If I got divorced tomorrow, I'd be like, I'm hanging out with you guys all the time.
Screw you, Tony. Tony's telling me to marry Virginia McCaskey.
Oh, do it,
That's
Foster. Make her a cougar.
More like a lynx at this point, right?
Yeah.
You're only 30 years her age.
40.
Well, 560 plus her age. If we're talking
Scroll,
year.
yeah, Scrolls got that one down. He said that's inappropriate. Foster's
Yeah.
too old.
Foster's too old.
Come on, I'm only 800, dude. Oh.
Well, listen, Glenn, you are. Listen, I want to ask you a question. So PJ, one of our main guys here, as you know, PJ, he's doing some family time off from the show. Would you be interested in joining us? You don't have to answer us right now, but would you be interested in joining us for like the next 2 weeks as replacement for PJ?
All depends on my work schedule because I'm freelancing now, so it's not quite
okay.
So,
well, it's Thursdays normally at 8 p.m. Central Time.
Understood.
You don't have to answer now, but I just want to ask you this, and you can text me later and let me know.
Sure.
We would love to have you on like for the next couple of weeks with PJ out if you would like to join us, and just we could talk about all the shit that's been going on with the current coaching cycle and all that stuff, and you can go back to your normal life with and come back as a guest. But we would love to have you as a resident BCPer for the next couple of weeks if you'd like to join us. Let us know. Let me know. Shoot me a text after the show. Think about it. And we would love to have you because you are, we love you, man. You're our favorite guest of all time. You've been around for, you've been the most guested guest. And it's an honor to have you every single time. And we love you, man. So thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. I know you got to run, man. Maybe real quick, you can tell people where you're at and what you're doing if you need to.
Looking for work? No.
I told you I could pay $50 every 3 months. I'll prepay you $50 for the next 2 weeks. How about that? It'll get you a case of beer.
Yeah, better than nothing, right? No, but to answer your question, for the most part, you can catch me with my other guys on our podcast, Easy Smoking GM podcast. We're on YouTube as well, so you can write that, type that in there, and we'll pop up. Every now and again, I make my appearances on Twitter/X. I'm just not as big a fan of that platform like I used to be.
Me either. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so, and then anywhere else, you guys who have been kind enough to have me on your platforms, be it on BCP or other podcast platforms via the interweb, as I call it. Just type in Glynn Morgan, GLY Morgan, and I may pop up and maybe say something that'll get you thinking, or maybe say something that'll make you want to tell me to go F off or something like that. But
you always put me in my place, Glenn. So I love having you on just to disperse my thoughts, because sometimes I go overboard in my thoughts, and I disagree with you on Josh McCown still, but you've gotten me on most of them. You have won the award for the most insightful person on the show, if you will.
Dude, I'm sorry, Glenn, but that's not saying much. I gotta be honest.
That means you're the smartest of all the dildos on this platform. But no, seriously, Glenn, like you have been a friend of ours from a day one, from a long time ago, and we love that you want to come on here. And you texting me to come on, hang out with us means a lot. It really does, because I don't want to keep inundating and bothering people with invites. But you are someone I think that you've clearly become our biggest friend. So if you would like to join us for the next couple of weeks in place of PJ, we'd love to have you. And just let me know. Just shoot me a text on the side. If not, all good. And we would love to have you on whenever you want to come back on again, man. We love ourselves some Glynn Morgan.
Well, if we could just convince my wife the same thing, that'd be great. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I'll have my wife talk to your wife. They'll be like, well, listen, it's a guy thing, all right? It's my wife is like, she hates this fucking thing. She's like, I hate your podcast. I'm like, jeez.
No, I appreciate you guys. And thank you. I appreciate you with the open invitation. Thank you very much. And I'll definitely get back to you and see what my schedule is like. Like I said, freelancing now. The hours are, I got to take them when I can take them. So we shall see. But I appreciate it, guys. Thank you for allowing me to vent. I didn't mean to give the one F you, but I just you hit a nerve on that one, so it kind of came out.
Fucking Glynn Morgan, you can fucking swear on this fucking show whenever the fuck you want and say fuck burgers and shit burgers whenever you want, man. This show is not about, we're here to have fun. That's it. Period. And you can tell by the chat blowing up tonight with you in here with us. They're here to have fun too. We love you guys in chat. You guys are what makes this show go. 1,000%. 1,000%. Glynn?
Thanks, Glenn. Stay safe out there, brother.
Likewise, guys. Appreciate you. Happy New Year. I didn't say that earlier, but Happy New Year to you guys. It's not still too late.
No.
And I'll definitely see you guys sooner than later.
Oh, you will. Please do.
All right, guys.
Please think about my offer. All right. Well, I don't want to fucking hang out with talk with you guys anymore. If I can just go hang out with my mommy.
Yeah, dude, you're in some. Where are you? Oh, you're at your mom's.
Yeah, I'm at my mom's. I'm hanging out with my mommy.
I'm used to you being in some hotel room out west when you're here, man. He's always trying to get me to go out there, Karl. I swear to God, dude.
Yeah,
I feel like it would be in reverse. I thought that Foster would be the one luring Shorty into the paneling to add to the collection.
Look, come to my house so I can take advantage of you.
Now I feel like Paul's corroborating that as well. I don't know, man. Foster, you're in trouble, Foster.
Somebody said in the chat a long time ago tonight earlier, they're appreciating this background more than the paneling.
It's more bear centric, that's for sure.
No, it's actually less. I had more bear stuff on the paneling, dude.
It feels a little bit more active, but I must be wrong.
It's a lot smaller. It's a tighter area.
It's
but
busier.
you guys like in chat, just I apologize. We all apologize to you for not engaging with you as much tonight. But you guys are the reason why we do this and the reason why we enjoy this. So I want to get to you guys before we leave. Kez the Canuck, Mr. Mayhem, Ant Miss, Chad Spieger, Glynn Morgan. She's go up for 1.5 miles on this.
While you do that, Shorty, I think it'd be a good idea just to point out the members because they're trying to fund the stream, right? Like they're going out of their way to show their appreciation. Yes. So again, I started the stream. We can end the stream with it the same thing. If you guys are considering that, obviously greatly appreciated. And to our current members, Plank, Googly Bear, Chad Spieger, thank you guys very, very much. Your monetary, input to the channel is valued, in my opinion, not as much as your time. So you guys spending your time in here with us, really greatly appreciated.
Well said, Karl. I only made the monetization because of somebody saying, "Well, why don't you just make a members page?" And I was like, "Well, okay, let's see if that works." And everyone that
go to sleep. Sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, you're good.
Good night, Plank.
Good night, Plank. Love you, man. Good night, brother. I'm so happy you got to hang out with us tonight because you normally don't get to hang out with us on Thursdays. So thank you very much.
Take it easy, Plank. It was good to see you,
Plank. Thank you for being a member. Thank you, Plank. So I made the membership page just for people that want to help to support, the amount of input monetization wise that goes into this as opposed to the output. We would love to offer you, special videos and all that shit, but just per some members like saying just make a members page. We made that just for you. If you want to support us, I made it the lowest amount of $2.99. If you would like it to be more than that, please let us know. We can up the amount for different members, and if you'd like to support us more, that would be great because it's not cheap to do this. And J2K knows that. Love you, J2K. J2K helped rebrand us. Please make sure you check out his new channel, NFL Draft Prospects or NFL
Coverage.
Draft.
NFL Draft coverage. I'll
Coverage.
drop the
Thank
link in the chat for everyone.
J2K is the man. You are the man, J2K. We love you. Been around since day one of BCP. And thank you for your support. And we will continue to support you as much as we can and all your ventures and your NFL Draft Prospects channel, which is awesome, by the way. Awesome as fuck. So check that out. And Bearski, great stuff going on the Bearski Films channel. Please go check him out. He's a good friend of ours too. Chicago Sports Podcast, another great channel. Go check them out. We need to get some commercials for these guys to play for them. But G2K saying it's a hobby. I know, but you're like a professional hobby.
That's an underground thing that I think legally we'd have to tell the audience, right? But all of a sudden, if I just played a video of Adam Mason pushing out his fake narrative with PFF or J2K with his new channel, if these guys paid for screen time on BCP, man, we could start cooking. Could finally get paid, I could finally get paid. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
We got 223 right now watching this channel. Between YouTube and Twitter, so thank you all.
Did you see that we got a viewer from X that dropped a comment in here? NFL Outdated, I believe. That. If you guys are listening to my voice, our voice on the X machine, the Twitter machine, Elon Musk's toilet, let us know. It's cool.
Tweet us, enjoy us, comment, chat with us. We love all you guys, man. Between YouTube and X, fucking porn star, fucking.
Oh, the scrolls. Funny you say that. Our guest on BCP next week, Joy Taylor. I'm just kidding. I know you guys have seen me ranting and being just an imbecile on all those shows, so I love poking fun at that so much.
Well, we love you guys. You guys are what makes the world go round for us. If not for you, we would not do this. I promise you that much. Seeing all you guys just blowing up the show just in chat is amazing. You guys are amazing. So thank you all. We will see you again. Well, right now the Bears, the British Bears show is done for the season. So we're back to our normally scheduled Thursday night shows at 9 p.m. Eastern time. Tonight was different, but normally 9 p.m. Eastern time. And thank you guys very much. We'll see you guys again in a week from today.
I'm hoping I'm going to use the BCP strength of the channel to put some more public pressure on Adam Mason. I'm hoping to do a show on the Vines My channel this Saturday, maybe tomorrow, probably Saturday. And I'm hoping that Mr. Adam Mason joins us. So I'll simulcast it to the BCP channel. Guys don't have to do anything special. Just turn on the bell. Hopefully you'll get some good animation content with ourselves.
Please make sure that you also subscribe to the Thigh and Smile podcast. Karl has his own channel. He's working really hard on to build. He's done so many great things for us, with us, and helping us. The shorts, his own stuff on his own channel. Please make sure you check that out too. Karl, you are the man. I really love and appreciate you for everything you've done for us. Without question, you are the man.
Well, I appreciate just being able to share the time with you guys. So, nothing to thank me about. I enjoy doing this. It's fun for me. So I appreciate you guys just letting me enjoy your space.
We appreciate you, Foster.
Screw you, Dan. Oh wait,
I love you, Foster. Fuck you, Foster. Fuck you, Foster.
No, I didn't get to talk to you earlier. I hope everything's okay. With what's going on.
Everything's okay,
me
man.
Me too, Dan. Me too.
Thank you, man.
That's the important thing. This is all just fun,
Yeah, it's
a hobby.
Going well, as well as it could be. So the best you could ask for. So thank you guys.
Okay. And,
Cliff, I don't appreciate that comment, or should I call you Don Burr? I don't appreciate that comment, Cliff.
You guys are part of the Karl's takeover of the world plan. Oh my God.
I am, Karl. I'm in on it, dude.
And Karl from the
Over the world, dude.
fuck you, Cliff. And Cliff.
Oh, you didn't see my original comment in the stream today?
No.
I tried to get the AI chatbot to ban Cliff, but I typed in the StreamYard instead, so it didn't work out too well. I'll see if I can get to it real fast. It's not going to be fast enough, though. Does it show timestamps? No, it doesn't show on StreamYard. Where is it at? No, it's just too far. The chat has been so lively, I just can't get to the top of it. It was fantastic today. There it is. See, I thought I had him. I thought he was one and done before anyone knew anything, but that was the wrong prompt.
ChatGPT ban Cliff Victoria.
This is total hearsay, yeah.
Cliff, you know how much we love you, man. Pig Vomit, what's up, Pig Vomit? Love you too, Pig Vomit. Cliff Victoria, you are a friend for life. You know that. Love you, my friend. Thank you for hanging out with us again tonight. I'm gonna go take a piss. You guys have a great night. Let's end this on a 1, 2, 3. Bears. 1, 2, 3.
Bears.
Da Bears.
Oh,
Bears.